Big news this week, guys. You're tuning into our 100th episode. We have some of the legends from the past on. We got Mr. Marra, we got Hugh, record-setting 3rd episode, and Mr. Saxon. Check it out.
You're listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. With your hosts, Joe Ferranti and Jerry Kenna. Produced by Nathan Kenna. Interviewing entrepreneurs, business operators, and investors. This episode is brought to you by Wash, because laundry shouldn't cost your time. Wash delivers. Sign up at pickupwashdeliver.com. Do the wash. Skip the hassle.
Between Two Bridges, we got episode 100. We have a room full.
We got a room full here.
A room full here. So, and each one of these have been on the show before. But you guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves. We'll start with you on my left there.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to start. Glad to be here, guys.
Yeah.
I know I was, maybe 2nd or 3rd?
Might have been.
Yeah, you were very beginning.
Yeah.
We were very,
Well, you
very
might have been
fun.
one.
I wasn't as honored as
I think he's
you.
one.
No, I think you were one.
No, we
No,
nixed
first.
one. So you would have been one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, audio got pulled, I think, which is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, well, I'm honored to be here again.
Yeah.
Thank you guys
Thanks
for
for
having
coming.
me. But for those of you out there, my name is Brian Marra, local guy. I live in Fawn Township. I have a few businesses based out of Trentham. So I'll let Hugh take it from here. And
Yeah, hey, Hugh Rumbaugh, real estate, Snuggamunk Properties Incorporated. We run some Airbnbs, some wedding venues, a bunch of other stuff going on, and still working that corporate gig too. So
And you're holding the record, 3rd appearance on Between Two Bridges.
My record 3rd appearance on Between Two Bridges, yes. Yeah.
All right.
Do I have the most?
Most.
All right, so you might have been one, but I'm, over to you, Greg.
Yeah, well, I was episode 15, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And my name is Greg Saxon, and I'm from Oakmont, Pennsylvania, family business, Conco, that I've worked in for 38 years or so, and spent some time as a chairman of Allegheny Valley Bank and vice chairman of Standard Bank. And about 4 years ago, retired and started another business because I needed to be challenged, and we got started, and now we're looking at exiting on that business too. So I'm happy to be here. Congratulations on 100 episodes, guys. You guys do a wonderful job. I drive to Virginia often and back, and when I start falling asleep, I put on one of your episodes and listen to it.
I thought you were going to say you turn it off.
No, but you guys do a great job. It's
We
very
appreciate
interesting,
that.
especially for the people that are local that understand some of the relationships you guys talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we started this on the principles of business isn't easy. People always see the good days. They don't see the long nights, the sleepless nights, the do this, and if it doesn't work out, we're out of business nights.
So when we decided to do this 100th episode, we kind of thought about it a couple different ways. We wanted to, at first we thought we wanted to have a big celebration, and we wanted to kind of bring in our favorite guests. And then we thought we wanted to bring in kind of the most powerful guests, and we ended up picking you three. And then the more we thought about it, we thought there's a lot of wisdom sitting in this room. And it would be sort of irresponsible for us to not take advantage of the wisdom sitting in this room and the time that we're sitting here and provide that wisdom and knowledge sitting here to the people listening and also to the people sitting in this room. And we've all had conversations with each other, but maybe we could take this time to learn from each other. And also, I'm sure our listeners would love to hear from us and be able to take advantage of this time. So I want to take this time, and we took some time to kind of come up with some questions and try to extract as much information and develop some conversation, and that's what we're going to try to do here. So one of the things that, as we were kind of preparing for this, that I realized is that the five of us sitting in this room, we are all fathers. We're all married. We're at least for now, we're not divorced. And I wanted to start out this episode with a question about that. So, as business owners, how have you juggled that? Because I know personally it sometimes is a struggle to juggle life as a business owner and investor and sometimes teacher and coach and manager and husband and father and all of those things. And we can be spread very, very thin. So what are some examples of some struggles that you've had, and how have you overcome them? And what's some advice that you can give to our listeners and to the rest of us sitting in this room from some of your experiences that you can share with us?
Well, I'll have a stab at that, Jerry. In our family business, whenever I met my wife, the business already existed. So it always had a presence in our relationship. And throughout the course of our marriage, my wife had worked in the business and still does today. All of my children have worked in the business at one time or another. So they all got to experience what that was like and how important it was for us to perform for the families of our family business, other than our own family. And so you understand that responsibility, and you understand that my wife, whenever she was a stay-at-home mom and the kids were young, she took on a heck of a responsibility there, making sure that they had the focus from a parent. And they just he respected both ways, that what she has is a tough job and what I have in demand for travel, et cetera, where you can't be there for those special events. It takes away from the relationship. But when you are there, you need to be able to participate and really engage in that event, whether it's a birthday or a holiday or whatever. And that team seems to work well in that environment. It's hard to leave sometimes when you have a 16th birthday party coming up or something like that, but they know that I do it because I had to provide for the family. And also, one of the biggest struggles that I talked about was keeping focus on your character. Even when days are going bad, you can't say what you might want to say to a customer, and you can't say what you might want to say to a family member that doesn't understand the struggle you're going through to make time with them. But all in all, combining them both together over years was a lot of fun as well. So,
anybody else have anything to add to that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I could talk all night. But no, like Greg was saying, it starts at home, right? I was blessed to have found a really great wife who has put all her faith and trust in me, even from, the early starts of our marriage. I was always been self-employed, starting different businesses, some really small. But even from the start, her trust in me, in knowing that no matter what I set my mind to, I'm going to succeed, and it hasn't always been easy, but having that support, even when I was at my lowest, where I thought I was going to fail and lose it all a few times in my career. Huey's been there a while back. I was in tears. I mean, having that happen to you and being in that position where everything that you've worked for up until that point is now, almost gone. But then having a supportive wife at home, being your biggest cheerleader, and she might have been nervous or scared, but never showed that to me. it was always positive reinforcement, and having that cheerleader at home is what kept me pushing. And then the kids come along and, still in business. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. And so that put a lot of pressure on me because we were all relying on my income and me being out there supporting the family. And, my biggest regret during those years were waking up, going to work while my kids were still sleeping, and then coming home and my kids were already in bed. That was the hardest. But without the 12, 15-hour days, we wouldn't have been able to build what we have now. And now it's funny because both my kids are, so obviously you guys know, but maybe the listeners don't, but I own a company called One Tom Plumber, and I also own a mitigation company called Unflooded. Unflooded we started back in 2009. I won't give you the whole story because you can listen to the past episodes to get the rest of the background. But both of my kids now work in the businesses. As soon as they graduated high school, they were boom right into the family business, right? My daughter's been now full-time with us for 3 years. And then my son, who graduated last year, has pretty much been full-time with us for the last 3 years. He did a cyber school, or virtual school, I think it's called.
Sure.
So he was working full-time. And he's got the bug, I think, from them watching me through the years, put in that effort, put in that time, and that drive has now been instilled in them. And it's funny because, and this is what I was getting to, when they were younger, I remember them telling me and my wife, do we always have to be talking about business? And that's all I talked about because it consumed me, So the kids were always saying, do we always have to be talking about business? Why does Dad always talk about business? Now, my wife's, she came back full time when the kids were in school. Now both my kids still live at home. They're full time. All the three of them do is talk about business. And I'm asking them, do we always have to talk about business?
It's little cats in the cradle.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Circle.
But they're super involved, and now they have that drive to really want to take these businesses to another level. And sometimes I just sit back and listen to the conversations, and I just kind of smile because they are me now. Where I was, they are me, and now I'm them. I don't want to hear business.
Yeah.
When I come home, I just want to relax. But to answer your question, though, I think it's being grounded. Similar to what Greg was saying, you have to really stay humble in your character is everything, even though you're tempted to sometimes step out of that. I was too. I hit a couple. I haven't always been successful. I've gone on that roller coaster ride, and I was young when I hit a point where I thought I was successful, and I became somebody I probably shouldn't have because I lost that humbleness, but I didn't really have a network of people that I have now. Now I'm surrounded by professionals, business owners, people that have been there, done that, and I see myself mirroring the best of the best that I have now part of my network. And, I hate those little cliches, but, show me your network and I'll show you your net worth,
Yep.
right? That's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
It's the people you surround yourself with. And I am blessed and grateful for the network that I currently have. And I talk in circles, sorry, because my mind runs faster than my mouth. But, I tell my kids the same thing because, when the kids are coming out of high school or in high school, they're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to find their friends. And the friends they think that are their friends really aren't their friends. And they go through such a depression because the friends they thought they had when they need them most aren't there, you know? And your teens, your 20s suck. Like they do. I didn't have my group of friends until I was mid to late 30s, where I finally found my space, you know, where I can actually and honestly say, these are the people I can count on. These are the people I can rely on. These are the people I can talk business with that'll keep it between us and give me the advice I need to keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. You know, I know I can, you know, and in this room, same thing. You guys all know a lot about me, and I've spilled my guts to every one of you, where I get honest feedback from you guys, not in the jealous way, not in the envious way, not in the way you want to see me fail. You guys always give me advice on how to succeed and how to grow and how to be a better person. That is when, you know, I realized, wow, my network is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I'm not to interrupt you, but I try to instill that in my kids. Like, listen, your friends today aren't going to be your friends tomorrow. You will find your true friends. You just continue to do what you're doing. Focus on you. Focus on being the best person you can be, as successful as you can be. And there's many definitions of success, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But you know, those are the things you have to focus on. Then the people gravitate towards you. Those you put out positivity, you get positivity in return, and that's, you know, what I instill in them.
Yeah, I try to explain that to my kids. You know, my kids are a lot younger than your kids, and I try to explain to them that, you know, when their friends aren't, you know, being nice to them, or this kid doesn't talk to me anymore, he's, you know, whatever. You know, those kids don't matter. You know, to be honest, you know, Joe and I weren't really close for, you know, most of the time that we grew up together. And I've known Joe since we were 5.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know, we became close whenever we started doing business together. And now, you know, I know who my 3 a.m. friends are. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's what, you know, that I've heard that phrase before, that 3 a.m. friend. I know what that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and I know who they are.
And you hit on it too. Like, you know, for your friends that go to a 9 to 5, nothing wrong with that. But like they come to your house and they leave with the impression it must be nice. It must be nice to get a new car. It's like, listen, dude, I know how I'm paying for it this month. I don't know how I'm paying for it next month, but I'm going to figure it out. And you don't have to worry about it. You can have your fancy little budget over there. Like, and when you own your own business, it's like, you know, I need to hire somebody, so the budget changes. I need to buy a new piece of equipment, so the budget changes. So like, to have friends that are in business that understand it, talk you off a ledge quick. You know, they're like, you're fine, dude. It'll be all right. You're just having a bad week or a day, you know.
Well, if you own a business, you're automatically rich.
Millionaire.
That's how it works. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, as soon as you file for your LLC, the government sends you $1 million.
Exactly.
You're an instant millionaire. Yeah. Go get it, cuz.
Yeah, well, they see the new cars today. What they don't see is, like myself, I didn't buy a new car until, I was in my late 20s, and I was just about to sell my first business. But those years before, you know, you guys know, but before I used to own cell phone stores and satellite, Dish Network, DirecTV, right? And not only was I working the store, you came in the store, you bought a satellite system from me. I was the guy who showed up to install it, right? So I had a cargo van with a ladder rack, and that was my vehicle. And that's how I took the kids to school.
I took my wife on our first date in a cargo van with comforters laid in the back because it was my dry clean delivery van.
Well, that went over real well.
Yeah. I think the line I said was,
free candy.
My cargo van will make more than that Mercedes parked in the driveway ever will, you know? And she's like, what's up with the blankets in the back? I was like, oh, it's so the clothes don't get dirty when they rub the floor. She bought it. We went to dinner, couldn't even park in a parking garage in Shadyside. Too tall. So, but yeah, I don't think I bought a new vehicle. I mean, I had a used truck, but like I didn't buy a new vehicle till we had a kid. Mm-hmm. And then it was important to me, like, all right, she can't drive a used vehicle with my kids in it. You know, she needs a new vehicle.
I still haven't.
Yeah, you still have your Ridgeline still?
Listen, we're over 200,000 miles.
Yeah,
I just
it's lasted all 100 episodes.
I just had this thing repaired, and I had this little dinky rental car during that time, right? And And again, I got in the truck and I'm like, God damn, do I love this truck. And nobody gets it, right? But me. And it's fine. No, I don't have to explain it. I don't have to whatever, right? But I start running the numbers, and if you like take 200,000 miles times the IRS, and you look at what I paid for it and what I've like put into it, it's like, holy shit, that's a $100,000 truck on the opposite side. Like, people don't see that. They don't get it. Frankly, I don't give a shit what I drive, and I really don't care what anyone thinks. So that's good for me. But yeah, same like you were saying, my wife, you know, I prefer my children and myself to drive in something that's reputable when we go places and do things. But yeah, I don't know. I refuse to get like, I just had our third deer hit. Like I hit another third deer of the year, right? I'm like, it's not worth owning nice shit. Like, I'm just like,
With a third deer with your truck?
no, I've hit 2 with the truck. Still haven't had the truck repaired. I've hit 3 with her
I was going to say,
car.
because I don't think they can get parts for that anymore.
Oh yeah.
Well, Greg, I noticed you pulled up. You had a company vehicle when you pulled up. You had one of your.
Yeah, I got a work truck out there right now.
I see you
That's his
driving all
daily.
around town.
I smoke cigars in it. Nobody will ride in it with me because it stinks so bad. It's beautiful.
That's by design, though. That's why
Between
you
the
do
two
it.
of them, I've got 250,000 miles on them. So it's a lot of driving back and forth to Virginia. But I remember when I was at Conco, in the early days, I had a junkie truck pickup. When we were successful, I had BMWs. But the price you paid for that success, you never really got to enjoy the car.
Yeah, that's true.
The truck is fine.
I remember you taught me the trick that you could smoke a cigar in the car and the passenger didn't even mind as long as you just cracked the window this much
pressurize the cabin.
and then you turn the air conditioner on full blast and you light that cigar. And I was like, you're full of shit. And then we drove home from the airport one time and we had smoked cigar when we were on this trip the whole time. And we got in that car and I thought, oh my God, he's going to light a cigar. And I was like, whatever, I don't care, whatever. And you lit that cigar, you turned the air conditioner on, you cracked that window, and I watched that cigar smoke go right out the window, and I was like, holy shit, it works.
But you have to make sure that the recirculating isn't on.
No,
You got to bring in the outside air. Yes,
It works. It's
I'm
amazing.
glad you guys learned that today. There you go.
So for our listeners,
100 episodes.
so
It might not be cigars. It might be something else.
Jerry, I want to answer your question though, because I come from completely different sides of like, you know, started self-employed, right? Family started. I would say my family was, you know, parents were teachers, right? Wife's side teachers. And the one guy in Freeport that I knew that had some nice shit always had real estate. And I'm like, man, I don't know how to figure it out. I'm going to go do what that guy does. And I would say it's give and take, right? Your wife has to support you. She also has to be willing to take a leap of faith. And your kids have to understand what it is you're doing and how you're doing it and mechanize that in a way that produces results, right? So I remember on one of our episodes, I was telling the story about how Connor was like excited because Dad, we're going to go see a stinky house, right? Like stinky house. Like, yeah, we're going to go see a stinky house, kid. And he's like, that means we're going on vacation. And I'm like, well, we were going on vacation anyway, but like, you're not wrong. Like he equated what we were doing to the outcome. And now they're involved more than ever. It's fantastic. They're 16 and 13 and loading dumpsters and pulling staples and nails, and you know, we're not into total tool use yet, but we're getting there and it's fun. But I think what Brian said and what Greg said is like being where your feet are is something I always say now, like be present where you are. So if I'm here with you guys, I'm present with you. When I'm with my children, my family, I'm really present with them. And then risk and reward, man. Like that whole must be nice. You know, I know there's people that, I know there's whispers of that. And hey, that's fine. Again, I don't give a shit. So.
Yeah. I mean, we're starting a project now that is really going to bring the whole family into it to understand that my kids were so little when we started the original dry cleaners on McKnight. And now we're starting a retail shop in Aspinwall. It's close to home. It's inside of our community. And my son is like, there's a loft in the back that he can like stand and touch the ceiling. And like, I want to keep him involved from the beginning. You know, I want him to see. And like last Saturday, they had something going on, but I was like working. Like I haven't worked in a long time. Like I was jackhammering up floors and getting after it. And And I was like bummed out that they couldn't come down there and see it. But before, I didn't want them to see it. It was like I wanted them to think that everything was easy. But the more I talk on the show with people that have parents, and I listen to the way you guys say it, like my daughter's 8, she can shoot a pass load. Send it,
Right.
like broom the floor. And the other thing about kids too that I've learned, like with my stepdad and my niece, is kids want to learn. If you tell them to get out of the way all the time, like you're in the way, you're not teaching them anything. Like that 5-minute lesson with your kid the first time he put something in a dumpster has paid dividends over the time. So, I mean, those are things that I've learned like in this little bit of time we've been here tonight, but over the course of talking to guests that are older than us or that have kids that are older than us. And like our kids they're just at the beginning of it. But like at 6 years old, he's interested. So if I show it to him, when he's 13, 14, he could be running the shop. I could go fix axles in Virginia. I could do something else.
I agree with you. Let him do something.
Yeah.
And when my son was, I think 9 or 10, he wanted to build a little shed outside, and we had Natalie's graduation party coming from high school, and I said, why don't we build a tiki hut? So we went and got the wood, got the saws out and the drills out and everything, and started cutting the wood, and we built the first wall and the floor together. And then I said, you got it from here? And he said, yeah. So he's out there with 10 years old running the circular saw, and I go to the kitchen, my wife's, what are you doing? I said, he's got it. He's a smart kid. He's going to get hurt. That's the worst thing he'll do is chop a finger or two off. It's no big deal, but he'll learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he loved every bit of it. It was a cool tiki hut.
It's funny how society does not want that and is like not challenging kids. And it's funny because I think the harder, and I'd be curious to hear from you guys, like the more freedom, or not necessarily freedom, but like the more you give them, they'll rise to the occasion and they'll perform the task. Like it's kind of incredible.
They can do it.
They can do it, right? I mean, it's a hell of a thing.
I mean, I see it like my one friend, his kid's a little bit older than my kids. I think he's 10, but they play football, and like there's a bunch of 10-year-old kids playing competitive football, and that is like so far removed from where I think my daughter's at mentally to like play but these kids are playing organized sports younger and younger and younger, and they're just life lessons all along the way, But it takes time. Like you said, be where your feet are, and I'm guilty of being at that point where like I had the laptop up, like helping them with their homework, but I'm also trying to clear invoices and like do everything. And organization's a big part of that, So like being where your feet are is kind of a great takeaway from that conversation.
All right, so let's go into a little bit of business. So
there you go, ruining the party.
All right, so we're business owners, and as business owners, one of the things, a hurdle that a lot of times business owners find themselves in, I know that I'm in one, Joe's been in it.
For now.
Yeah. You get to a point where you're at a certain size, revenue size, right? Maybe it's $500,000 in revenue, 800 million. One of the things, actually, Brian, in a conversation I had with you recently, you could be in a room with somebody that's making that owns a company that's making a tremendous amount of money, and you all of a sudden you're like, you feel really small, right? And it makes you think like, how do I get there? Now, obviously, there are freak businesses out there, right, that are making billions and billions of dollars a year. And that's not the 1%. In reality, we're the 1% in real world, okay? That's the 0.001%. But in the real world, how do you get a business to get from that $1 million revenue to 2 million, to 5 million, to 10 million? When you're a business owner and you're putting in 12, 15-hour days, you're putting in the grind. You're working you're putting in the effort. It's not a lack of effort. It's not a lack of time. So you just are having a hard time understanding. It's not how do you 2, 5, 10x that business? you scale that? How do you take that step? I know that some of us are still trying to figure that out. Greg, I know that you, being 38 years in the business and in a family business, you kind of lived that life where you were in a business that you scaled.
Mm-hmm.
So you can maybe provide a little bit of insight, not to put you on the spot.
Oh, no.
But how do you build that business? And let me even preface it even a little bit more, because one of the things that's always been obviously I'm in a service business, right? And one of the things that's a little bit perplexing to me, and I think a lot of business owners find themselves in this issue, is kind of putting that cart before the horse, right? So you can go out there and get more sales, but you can't have more sales without the people to do the work. But you can't hire more people without the sales. And you can't afford to hire the people without the sales. So how do you balance that to scale the business? How do you do it?
Well, I'll speak from our experience. And I was part of my job with Conco in the growing years was what they call, I focused on outside of the box. So inside the box, everything that's outside of the box, eventually you want to bring it inside the box to where there's people who are trained in how to do it. They're experienced. They're almost overworked before you add people originally. But once you create that repeatable service or repeatable products that you're manufacturing or whatever it is, and there's processes and procedures, there's typical ways you load out for a job, you come back for a job, you standardize everything. And we did that, and it worked out great for us to where we can scale from 4 crews to 40 crews over time. The equipment was the same, everything was the same, but if it was outside the box, that was like a special team that would focus on those. And you would take your people that excel inside the box and need more challenge, you invite them over to outside the box to figure out, this is a new service line we want to do. We do a couple of those service lines and think, yeah, it's a good fit. We can make money here. Then the guy that was helping you, you kind of turn it over to him and let him put that inside the box and bring it back there. That's how I did it from an operations perspective. As far as where's the money coming from, I had a brother that worried about that. And he would stop you from spending when you didn't have the money, and you'd figure out how to do it another way. A lot of MacGyver stuff would go on. But I think that's it, Jerry. I think standardizing a lot of stuff without taking the focus off of what your customers are hiring you for. You got to be able to have that. In your business, a lot of it is they're hiring for you, but they don't know what goes on in the back office. So as much stuff as you can kind of cookie cutter or create procedures, or even have a book that a new employee could understand when they get to a crossroad that they don't know the answer to, there's something to reference or somebody else to reference.
So we talk a lot on the podcast about building systems and processes, mm-hmm. and trying to build, and
even if they're not written down, as long as everybody understands what the process is, you know?
Yeah.
I think like in your business with having your kids, I think like when you look back at Conco as a whole, like you guys were able to expand because the family was involved. And then I look at you saying about your kids want to 10x your business. I think that family businesses, when the family buys in, there's an ability to get more out of everybody because they have more skin in the game because their name's on the door essentially. Now, recently in the last year, I went from a business that was doing great on the revenue end of it, but there was no systems in place. It was everybody was putting out fires from sun up to sundown. And I was at a crossroads. I was like, you know what? This isn't working for me. Like this is not working for me personally. It's not working for my family. Like everything's just broken, and I'm just waking up at 5 o'clock and just going to work and just working till 8 o'clock. And like the revenue.
You were trying to do it all.
Yeah. And I'm like, everything's fucked. And like, everybody that worked for me that didn't come on to the new program, they just weren't good employees, but I let it get to that point. Mm-hmm. So I was like, that's it, pull the switch, shut it down, right? Because that was the only way I could figure out how to stop the wheel from turning. And then now with the new store and the new approach of the new delivery system. It's like now it's really like I don't have an opportunity to do this again and then shut it down again to figure it out. So systems in place is like the biggest thing for me right now. And I do the thing where I don't write everything down. It's probably not good.
It's the concept. There's a procedure. You know what it is. Let's do it.
And it's like my wife says that to me all the time. You need to give me all the details at the beginning of the job because then I won't have, because I get so annoyed. I'm like, can't you just figure it the fuck out? Like, well, that's how I live my life, just figuring it out. It's not fair to ask an employee to just figure it out. And when they fuck it up, then get mad at them. So I like the whole system thing. Maybe I should start writing some of them down.
Yes. SOPs, man. Standard operating procedures. Document the hell out of it.
Yeah. So funny. The simple stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm. And you're really good at that, right? That's what you do for your
W-2.
Yeah.
We do some of that. We do quite a bit of it, mainly because you have to, so you can keep your certifications and ISOs and blah, 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 and stay in business. So
yeah, no one's calling Bezos up. It's like, hey, this thing didn't scan into the system. What do I do? They're like, no, you go to the book.
Check the book.
Yeah.
Check the book.
But you see what he has done. And guys like that, I look at. You know, I spent years thinking I could do it all by myself, right? So, you know, in getting back on track on your question, Jerry, you know, how do you 5X, 10X, 15X, whatever you want to get to, you know, a lot of people still measure success on the bottom line, maybe the gross figure, whatever it may be. You know, to get to that, you almost have to forget about it and then just invest in people. You know, I'm not the greatest business man out there. I can tell you that. I have big balls and guts. You know, where I excel is I don't have fear of failing. So I can say, all right, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Have no knowledge of what I'm getting into, but just do it and just make it happen, right? But for me to make that, you know, I'll come up with a system. For me to have that system even make sense and work, I have to bring on somebody who understands how to implement that system. I'll hire somebody who knows how to implement that system. So my time is spent on focusing on hiring the right talent so that the business will be successful. If I need more sales, then I hire a shark, right? If AR is getting out of control, I hire someone who's a shark that can collect money. I'll continue to invest in people. And what happens is, you know, being passionate about solving problems, and that's really everything that we all do. Every one of our businesses solves a problem, right? If you're able to solve a problem for somebody else, you can make money doing it. Now you got to figure out how to solve that problem more efficiently, more rapidly, and how you can grow on solving that problem faster. And then the money is the byproduct. That's how that works. So if you're just focusing on making money, you're going to kill yourself working 15, 16, 17 hours a day, not having your feet planted and being distracted from everything else around you because you're so focused on that dollar, that dollar, that dollar. But when you invest in the people that can make all those systems work and processes work smoothly and be the biggest cheerleader for everybody in the company, the money just comes in. The money just happens. You know, I didn't understand any of this. I'll be 47 Saturday. I didn't understand any of this until I was 40. You know, I didn't understand business. I just thought you went and worked as hard as you could and you made money. What I wish, and I, you know, I don't look at like my company with the people that we have as employees. We're all one big team. You know, we all have, and we preach all the time, the goals, where we want to be. Nobody wants to go to a job and just work their job. They want to be part of something bigger and better. And if everybody understands that what they're doing is important and they are helping, you know, that business grow and get to that next level, you get more out of them because they want to be everybody wants to be on a winning team. But investing in those people, having those teammates all be part of that same vision, everything just seems to connect, you know? But, you know, you asked the question, when is the right time to hire somebody? Well, or buy equipment. Again, I didn't understand this until my 40s, but I now buy trucks before I need them. We now hire people before we need them. That's what forces us to grow. That's what forces us to keep expanding. You know, we're buying a brand new service truck every 60 days. And we've been it's been rapid growth. Now I'm talking about my plumbing company that's only been 2.5 years old. A friend of mine started a franchise. He was on me for a couple of years to bring it to Pittsburgh. I'm not a plumber, but I brought this plumbing company to Pittsburgh, had no idea how to run a plumbing business, never ran a plumbing business. Hired a master plumber, hired a general manager, and then we just kept, the master plumber knows his plumbing very well. The general manager knows his business very well. You know, both these guys know way more than I do. And I brought them in to be part of the team. And the three of us went wild and we started hiring the right people, right times before we needed them. Because when we first started hiring those people, the phones weren't ringing, you know, business wasn't coming in, but we just kept at it and things just started happening. You know, now we are, I believe, still the fastest growing franchise location the franchise has. And we want to continue that. We have broken our monthly revenue record 3 months in a row now. And we are, you know, one of their top dogs and I want to stay there. So to do that, we just have to continue to invest in the people and keep buying trucks before we need them. Because again, having, you know, plumbers come in, we have ads out for plumbers all the time, nonstop. We're always waiting for that next great plumber to come in for that interview. Well, what if I get this next great plumber and I don't have a truck to put him in, right? Now I'm wasting his talents, wasting our time. So we always have another truck on order waiting for that next plumber to come in for that interview. We don't even know who that's going to be next. We just had a guy Monday come in and we hired him. You know, he's phenomenal. You know, he has a great reputation. He's well known for how well he can sell, how well he can do his service work. And, you know, we were, again, blessed that he came walking through those doors. But the only reason he walked through those doors and left his other company was because of the reputation we're building and the culture that we have with our people. Our guys in the field talking is what now brings in these other great people. People want to be part of something successful, right? You know, and once you have that, things just start happening for you. Again, the money becomes the byproduct of following systems, processes, and culture.
Thank you for listening. And now a brief word from our sponsor. You've got a full plate. Kids, meetings, workouts, side hustles. There's better things to do than laundry. Introducing Wash, laundry reimagined for the modern world. Schedule your pickup in seconds via the convenient web app. Wash picks up your clothes, cleans with care, and brings them back fresh and ready to wear. But it's more than garments. From bedding and table linens to shoes, hats, purses, and more. Wash handles all your life's fabric, leaving you more time to do you. Visit pickupwashdeliver.com and see how convenient it can be to do the wash. And now, back to the show.
What you just said kind of leads me to the next question. Is at what point did you realize that you couldn't outwork a problem and that you needed to step back and bring in a leadership team and that you weren't necessarily the person that could solve the problem and that you needed to, and how did you decide whether or not it was somebody to promote from within or was outside talent? And was it a question of whether or not you needed to necessarily, quote unquote, fire yourself and replace yourself, your role within your position, in your job, in your company? Or At what point did you decide that you needed to bring on that leadership role? And in your situation, it was the one time it was another company where you brought in, at what point did you have to decide?
So when I bought the One Tom franchise, it introduced me to most 95% of the One Tom owners are restoration company owners. When I bought my franchise, I was introduced to other restoration owners and really didn't realize how small my restoration company was. And it was because I was still micromanaging it. I was still trying to solve every problem. I was the guy trying to do all the sales. I was the guy trying to do all the invoicing. I was still that guy until I bought into the One Tom franchise and then introduced me to my new network of people. I didn't make that decision. My network told me, Brian, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. You have to hire this person. You have to hire this person right away. I had a meeting. The owner of One Tom came up back in March or May, and we were sitting around the conference room table, and he says, what's your biggest struggles? And I said, well, I won't talk numbers, but we can't get over this mark. I don't understand. We're just stuck. He said, okay. Well, do you know how to solve it? I said, I think I do. I think adding more trucks and adding, more plumbers. He said, okay. He said, you have 60 days. He said, how many trucks you have, or how many trucks you need? I said, we could easily have 3 more vans, full schedule every day. He said, okay, you have 60 days. You hire 3 new plumbers, 3 new trucks. Get those trucks ordered right now. So he forced me to get out of my comfort zone of waiting till I had enough money to buy it. We just found the money to buy it and just went to town. And then things just started happening. But it wasn't until I got into that network of business owners that forced me out of my comfort zone to really start expanding. 3 years ago, 4 years, 3 years ago, there was 3 or 4 of us. Now we have 28 employees. So that's how fast it's happening, only because of the coaching and the mentors of the network that I'm involved in, And again, I talk to you guys all the time about business and the things that we're struggling, we all talk, the things we're struggling with, the things we're doing really good at, and we bounce ideas off each other. That's why you need that network. That's why you need the right people in your life. And this, you don't have to be, and again, I'm going to tell everybody listening, you don't have to own a business to make money. You just have to know how to make your money work for you. Like Hugh over here, he invests in real estate. Real estate has done super well for him, and we all know that. But you don't even have to go that far. You can be out there making whatever you're making per year. But my advice to people, and especially the younger generation, like my kids are 20 and 18, I set them up with my financial advisor. And keep in mind, I never had a financial advisor till I was 4. Again, I keep going back to 40 because I loved my age 40 because that's when I figured out a lot of things out. But investments and compounding interest. I wish somebody would have introduced me to this long ways before, when I was in my early 20s. Compounding interest is an animal. It's a snowball. Once that you start rolling, you take that little ball and you start rolling down the hill, it's amazing how big that ball gets over time. And it's nonstop. So you don't have to go out there and, okay, I heard Jerry's podcast, now I'm gonna go start a business. Starting a business there's a lot of struggling business owners out there. Take advantage of what you're currently making. And if you have to increase that a little bit, maybe put in the overtime. Go and maybe get that part-time job. But that overtime and that part-time job money, that's your money to go and invest. That's how you're going to live in the future, And again, and a lot of people think you only go talk to a financial advisor when you have money. You go talk to a financial advisor when you don't have any money. You tell him your goals, or her your goals, or that person your goals, right? I want to have $5 million by the time I'm 50. They'll reverse engineer the whole plan and show you what you have to do right now every month to be there. It might, when you're in your 20s, it might be $150 a month. You know, a lot of these kids today, they're making pretty decent money. And a lot of them, if they can afford their $800 truck payment, they might as well buy the used truck and take the rest of that money and invest it and put it with the financial advisor and let that ball just keep rolling. You know, so again, not owning a business is guaranteed success. It's not.
No.
You know?
So we always make the joke in my family. I love that, by the way. So the joke is, my personal side is always do the opposite of what my parents would do. It's just kind of a joke, right? My dad came home one year with an Apple IIc computer. And I'm thankful he did, because it was super cool. I learned a lot about technology. You guys know I'm really into technology. And the joke with my oldest brother is, son of a bitch, if dad would have just invested whatever it cost for that Apple IIc in the Apple stock, completely different outcome of the scenario, right? Like, so you're not wrong. I think people are missing that, time is going to go by no matter what. And the choices you make early, whether it's in your 20s or even in your 30s or 40s, and hell, Colonel Sanders in his 60s, 70s, right? Whatever that was. I think it's the financial acumen piece and the idea of time is going to pass. So what are you doing with it, right? And you said you don't have to go out and open a business. I agree. Something you said that I think a lot of listeners need to understand is that you did mention go work a little more somewhere, whether it's for yourself, like I work for myself in real estate, or work for somebody else and take that money and invest it, right? So, over the generations, one of the greatest generational wealth creators is real estate, and that's why I chose that business.
It really is. And what you're saying is exactly true. I have a close friend of mine who is in a union, and because of his lack of seniority, is that what they call it? He always put in for overtime, but could not get overtime because he didn't have the seniority. So the senior guys who's been there the longest get rewarded, right? So they're the ones who's eligible for overtime before it comes down to him. So if they turn it down, and if it's eligible, then he can grab it. Always put in for it, could never get it. So he said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to get into real estate. So he bought a house for, I don't know, $15,000 or something like that. It was less than 20, I know that. And what he was doing before work, he'd go work on that house. And then after work, he'd go work on that house. So he said, they won't give me the overtime. This is my overtime. My overtime is my labor being put into this house so I could flip it or rent it. And which he's done very well, owns multiple Airbnbs now and apartments. And that is how he built his real estate. That is how he built his retirement. That's his retirement. Will he get his pension from his union? Yes. But it's nowhere going to be near what he's making off the real estate, So a friend of mine who just turned 58 is doing the exact same thing, or did exactly that. Wouldn't get the overtime from his company, so invested his overtime in himself and went and bought fixer-uppers. And that's how he did it.
Exactly what I'm doing. Right on.
Just can't be afraid to work. I think that's,
And like you said too, as far as like you don't need a business, you don't need to build a business owner. We also live in a generation right now, in a time where the side hustle, we live in the gig economy, right? So like,
I'm sorry, I missed that.
We live in the gig economy, right? Yeah. So like owning a business doesn't have to be a multi-million dollar, even you can literally have a side hustle. Anybody can start a side hustle doing almost anything. Mm-hmm. You can open up an Etsy. You can flip things on eBay. I have clients that are doing little businesses that are making $10, $20, $40, $60,000 a year doing the most random shit you'd imagine. And you'd be amazed the kind of extra money people are bringing into their household, doing things that you would be amazed of what they're doing. And
And it's all legal.
It's all legal, but like just things that they actually enjoy doing, things that they're passionate about, things that, you know, flipping sneakers, you know, people that are into baseball cards, that are flipping baseball cards, you know, things that they're actually passionate about, and they're making money, real money, doing things, and actually things that they love to do. We're in a world right now with everybody having basically a supercomputer in their pocket where you can make real money doing things like that in the palm of your hand. So you don't need to have a business that takes up every ounce of your energy that you have to quit your job for. You can have a side hustle that gives you real money that you can then save. But we've talked about it on the podcast over probably 98 of the 100 episodes. The key of that is that side hustle money, don't spend it on stupid shit.
Yeah, correct.
Save it. Put it away, and that can be your nest egg.
So what you're saying, save it. That is every parent's advice, right, to kids.
Invest it. Deploy it.
But see,
deploy it.
Yes.
Use it to.
We say it because we understand the meaning behind it, you know, here in this room. But again, it's not saving it. Saving money does nothing for you.
Right.
You know, what I said earlier is figuring out a way to make that money working, to have that money working for you, right? That money is its own, your dollar bills, you know, that Benjamin Franklin, he's your employee. You know, you already have a business by having him in your hand. Where are you going to send him to go work for you? Right. So, and that's why I'm big on getting a financial advisor as early as you possibly can. Tell that person your goal. You know, have him tell you what you're going to need to retire. And if you're 20 years old, he's going to figure it out. He's going to say, okay, look, you need X amount of dollars. This is what you're going to need at 65, right? Or whatever retirement age you choose. And he'll reverse engineer it. Now you have a plan. A lot of people that take that money and put it in the bank or savings account, or sometimes go buy a liability because now they think they can afford that $1,000 truck payment. Buy the $500 truck, you know, the truck that's $500 a month. The other $500, invest. Send those Benjamins out to work for you. You know, and if you have that plan reverse engineered for you, you already know where you're going to be. You already know. It's already laid out. You know, that money now has to be used in a way that's working for you. So now you're going to your 9 to 5 or your regular job or whatever you're doing, but your money's also working at the same time you are. It's like having two jobs.
Yeah.
You know?
I think a lot of times as a small business owner, your investment is like your business though. Like, I mean, I would have never thought I would have bought like a $390,000 house, right? But it was a no-brainer for me to buy my plant. It was like, I didn't even quabble with the thought. I was like, whatever it is, we got to buy it. But then like when I was renting on McKnight Road, I was paying 2x what my mortgage payment is. And every month I pay that mortgage payment. It's like a pipeline to me at 60 to be like, all right, well, I got $500,000 worth of real estate. And I see what you do with real estate. And I'm always like, man, I'd like to get into real estate. Then I'm like, but you own your house and you have a shop and you have a warehouse, you know, like, so you kind of are in real estate, you know? So sometimes like you don't see it through the lens until you talk about it. And like when you were saying about networking, you don't even like me and Jerry talk about this all the time. We're so far away from our goals because we're not living in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, but like 20 years ago, you would have told me where I'm at. I'd have been like, fuck, I'm on top of the mountain. I'm good. But like you said, like it's just like hard to grasp.
Well, when you're that age, you want to be where you're at now.
Yeah.
You know, but then now where you're at, you want to be somewhere else. I mean, we're as entrepreneurs, you're never happy.
A ship at sea with no land in sight.
That's right.
Ever. It's never there.
No.
But that also goes to the point where like we'll talk about it and you're like, oh, there's no money in that account. You're like, oh, I got to move money from this account to that account. Like, so maybe a financial advisor. I just have always been afraid to show her my books. Like
well, you know what?
What the fuck are you doing?
You know, I used to, listen, you know, I grew up that same way. My family are immigrants and my parents are first generation. You know, it was growing up, you never talk about money.
Right.
You know, you don't talk about money, you don't talk about death. Well,
or politics back then.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, how do you learn about it if you don't talk about it? And I'm not saying go out there and just talk about it with everybody. You'll find the right people or go and find that right person to start with and talk about money. And a lot of times for a lot of people, it is that financial advisor. They'll talk to financial advisors. They don't care if you have $100 in the bank or $100 million in the bank. They'll talk to you. They actually prefer to talk to somebody that has $100 in the bank, because now they're working with you to help you build something, right? You know, when it comes down to it, you got to go and find that one person, find that financial person, talk about the money, you know?
Sometimes they find you.
That's true.
So covered in paint one day, walk into a cigar shop in Oakmont, and this guy next to me goes, "Hey, you happy with where you bank?" And I'm like, "Fuck no!" Like, let's talk about it. And that's how I met Greg.
That's how you met your accountant too.
And that's how I met my accountant. Same thing, but
They came from the same place.
I'm still banking with both of your banks at this point, and awesome. It's been all the better for my family. So I don't know. Sometimes they do find you.
Well,
but
I found a bank through you.
Yeah.
And I found Jerry through you.
Yeah, right.
So that's how that works. So that's the networking I'm talking about.
We're going to keep talking about money here and scaling in general. But as you scale the business, what is your general thought as you scale from 1 to 5x, 10x, 15x? Are you, as you scale with, how do you handle the risk with taking on debt? Are we reinvesting profits, or are you willing to take on debt in order to 5x, 10x, 15x your business?
So at one point, I don't know, we were over 30 doors. I had a shit ton of debt with Greg's bank. You know? And like, we're looking at how much we're paying out, and I'm like, this does not make sense. Like, our money is not necessarily working for us. It is, right? We made a conscious decision to pay everything off, and we did. We sold a bunch of stuff, paid stuff off, and it was a great recirculating of where do we want to go next. And so we did end up taking a few more smart moves that created some debt. As you know, as an accountant, like, you got to have some of that. And
can I just so everybody understands?
Yeah.
You're saying debt. Mm-hmm. There's good debt and bad debt. I think clarify on that, because debt to other people, it's scary.
So it's good debt. It's not like, holy shit, I'm upside down, $100,000 on credit cards that I bought socks with, right? The real estate notes on properties that have appreciated or gone up in value through the work that we've done. We've sold those, usually able to capitalize and then pay off any debt on other.
So you sold off some of the properties and were able to pay off all of the debt on all of the properties with some of the properties that you sold.
Yeah.
But you're willing, and you have leveraged some of the properties to expand your portfolio. You were able to buy more property, and you were willing to take on additional debt to expand the portfolio.
We're closing tomorrow on our next Airbnb location. It's exciting. It's a good thing. We're taking debt on that in a smart way at a certain percentage that makes sense. Absolutely. When you see the right project and you know to go after it, you will. I'm not afraid of debt. Like, I don't mind the numbers. I don't mind the payment as long as the cash and income is coming in. But for us, getting back to scaling, right? Actually going backwards and reducing the amount of, like, I call them children, right? Tenants. Reducing the amount of tenants allowed us to do other things with our time that we were able to improve other parts of what we operate. And so actually getting smaller was better for us, that we are now more like a slingshot where we can pull back, and then when we want to let go, we're going to hit our target. We're going to hit it hard and fast. So, we had a great property hit the market. We were looking at a certain area. It's a great blessing to us, and we were able to walk in and be like, yeah, we're going to do this all cash offer. Let's go. Let's pick it up, and we'll come back in after winter because this property's 90 minutes away. But in a year, 6 months, we'll have a hell of an Airbnb that creates a revenue, and again, we'll have debt on it that is being paid. Again, time is going to pass, right? Time is. I think what the one thing I would say on this podcast, if I get known for anything on your 100th show, is like, use your time wisely, right? Yeah. Like, I feel really passionate about that. So time's going to pass. So I might as well own this thing that somebody's paying for. The debt is going down. And oh, by the way, last time I checked, land and buildings, not getting cheaper, right? So there's this gap, and I call that the wealth gap, right? And if you stack 10 of those, boy, that gap starts to change. So that's kind of the approach, and you know, we're small, but I love what we do.
Yeah, I got a friend that's two twin brothers that deal in real estate, and they've got over $10 million worth of property each. And their new thing is they buy at least one or two houses a year for $300,000 to $500,000. They're in the Pinehurst area in North Carolina, and they take a 15-year mortgage on it, and they set the rent just a little bit above, and they get great tenants, and they forget about it. And the goal is, in 15 years, that house is now going to be worth $1 million.
Exactly.
And it's going to be paid off, and they paid for it. And he's going to do that every year for like the next 5 years, just as a experiment.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
5 years from now, can we have lunch with that?
Yeah. Why don't we do it in the next podcast?
Yeah, bring them on. You know, real estate, having a twin, that's got to be beneficial, especially if you're like a listing agent, because like it cuts your
they're both
workload
in
in half.
Same area. They have the Roberts properties, and then they both have their own properties.
Yeah.
You know, so it's.
I mean, so when you were at the bank, I don't know what you were on the board of the bank. Did you oversee like lending decisions and stuff like that while you were there?
Yeah, the board of directors oversees. You know, obviously the CEO oversees everything,
Yeah.
but there's certain thresholds that come to the board of directors.
Because that was something I didn't learn until like my mid-30s, that like every time I had a business decision to make, I was like, all right, well, I have this in savings. I have this in the business account. It cost me $90,000 to do this. I can't afford to do it. Let the opportunity pass. I didn't know that as a mediocre business that was somewhat successful, that you could go to a bank and they would just throw money at you. And I mean, I think when we were moving, we caught into some expenses, and Jerry was like, you can get a line of credit, you know, you don't have to like bear this burden of this plant build out yourself. Like you can use the bank's money for some of this. And I was like, what a fresh of breath air that was. You know, like.
But even to get to know a guy like yourself, you know, you're overseeing what's going on at the bank, right?
Right.
So you see what others are asking to borrow money for.
Oh yeah.
Successful people are coming to you wanting to borrow money to buy this or buy that. That's what this is the network I'm talking about, right? So it's like, hey, Greg, I know you can't give me names, but tell me, what are these people coming to the bank for? What are they buying? Where is the money being spent?
You should have seen how many Pokemon cards he had in his garage in the 90s.
Well, doctors come to buy car washes for their son and daughter that don't want to go to college.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And
Yes.
as long as a personal guarantor, you don't care. When people come in and you have a debt service coverage, I think our minimum was like 1.15, which means that for every dollar that we put out, or you put out towards your mortgage, you got 1.15 coming in. I was always weary about that. I'd like that to be a little higher number. But if you got personal guarantors on things like that, you would ride that line. But nobody's going to hesitate to give you money if you're at a 1.3 debt service coverage and you have a lot of units, which the chances of a lot of the units being vacant are kind of slim, because you get these guys that have duplexes and things like that who are just starting out, and you realize that guy, if he has one empty apartment for a year, he's gonna be telling you it's time to foreclose, guys. We can't do it. So it's just common sense is all it is, and having smart people that understand the numbers around you is very important.
That's important. Very important.
Very important.
Yeah, and that answers another. You know, you were talking about scaling. Like, you know, I'm not a financial guru, but I surround myself with people like yourself that understand money, who can guide me, and guys like yourself who know the banking industry, who know interest rates, who know those, you know, guys like you are the people that I lean on for that information, because I don't have time to be an expert accountant. I don't have time to be an expert financial, investor. I don't have time for that. So I lean on you to say, hey, this is what I want to do. How do I do it? Greg, how should I finance it? Jerry, what's the best tax advantage I can do by doing this? So by putting, guys like yourselves together on a project or an idea I have, now I'm doing it the smartest, best way. I'm using, let's call it so-called debt to invest in something. So I'm using the bank's money to create an income, all in the same by saving on taxes, by leaning on you to see how I should be working this money to get obviously the best tax advantage, right? Going through all this over the years, I'd hear people say, "Oh, well, that's just a write-off, or that's a write-off." This and that. Well, you still got to make it, right? But the thing is, the reason it's a write-off, or the reason why the government says, "Okay, you get this tax break if you do this," it's because that's where they want you to spend your money.
Right.
It's not because the rich are taking advantage of the tax system. The tax system is written so the government can say, "Look, we need the money spent here." No different. Look at the last 5, 6, 10 years, whatever it was, with the electric vehicles. Right now, you go buy an electric vehicle, you're getting $5, $10, $15, $20,000 off right now in rebates, because they want you to spend your money on these electric vehicles.
Well, I think that just ended September 29th.
Not as of September 30th.
There you go.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
over.
But up until then, that's where they wanted you to put your money.
But you
Right.
follow that with the electric vehicles. They don't want people driving electric vehicles because the money's not going back into the roads. They're not getting the fuel tax in PA. Like we had Carrie Del Rosa on here. The roads are going to shit, and the budget for the roads is declining.
Yeah, but you
because
know where they're banking up on that is when you have your registration.
Yeah,
Now they're banging you in your
registration.
registration
Sorry,
because
yeah.
you weren't paying road tax.
Right.
So
Yes,
again, they didn't think it the whole way through.
Right.
Right.
But knowing that they don't think it the whole way through, I need guys like you that are every day. You're watching the tax laws.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot, where you have to understand that the tax code is written to
Manipulate spending.
it's to manipulate spending.
100%.
And Biden administration did it with tax credits for residential energy credits and electric vehicle credits, and the big beautiful bill in the Trump administration is doing it with his own projects.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wants money spent in what he wants, where he wants it spent. And every administration does it in the way they want money spent, and they do it every time. Every tax code is written where they want money spent and where they want to drive the economy. The tax code is written in a specific way to drive the economy in a certain direction. It's just the way it is.
We understand that, but the general public,
Right.
Because of their network, they're not getting that information. We understand it because our network talks about money. Right. We talk about taxes. We talk about investments. So we understand, how the tax laws are written. It's not that the rich get richer. It's just the rich pay attention to the rules of the game. It's playing Monopoly, right? Are you going to just continue to buy houses? No, you're going to continue to build hotels because that's where you get the most money and that's where you get the most bang for your buck. No different than anybody else. You follow the tax law. You're going to use it to the best way possible for your own tax advantage so that you get to gain at the end of the year, right? But that's where experts like you come in. I don't have time to become a tax expert. I just don't. I don't have the time to sit there and understand it, And, having a guy like you on our team and someone that we can lean on, now I get the advantage of understanding the tax laws that much better because you're invested in it. You're spending the time to understand it.
Right. And I think every business owner shows a level of vulnerability, right? So you're being vulnerable saying, I don't understand everything. But I think when you're new in business, you look at that as a weakness. But when you get into business long enough, you got to be vulnerable.
Oh, I started off thinking I knew everything.
Yeah.
Now I'm at the point where I don't know anything. I'm just there. Now I hire the people that know. I hire the experts.
Yeah.
And that's what
One
pushes
of
you
our
forward.
100, we had a guy, John Dick, he had a podcast called The Dumbest Guy in the Room. And when we had him here, he was like the smartest guy in the room. And it's like truth. Like in life, you want to be the dumbest guy in the room.
Mm-hmm. Because if not, you're in the wrong room.
It's easy for me, bud. It's a lot easier for me than most.
Oh my God.
So running a business isn't all about financial, and it's not all about hard work. It's a mental game. So what is some examples of the hardest time in your careers? Some of the biggest struggles, maybe a point in your careers where you've considered hanging it up, going back to work, getting a job, saying the hell with this, I quit? What was the hardest time in your careers?
Go around the room.
Yeah, let's go around the room. Who wants to go? Who wants to start?
Hugh hasn't gone first.
It's really
yet.
easy
There
for
he
me.
goes. I've probably talked about it at length, unfortunately, but there was this town called Fox Chapel.
There we go.
And I think pretty much
You might start crying.
Yeah, like you in February.
PTSD.
Man, hell of a situation, dude. Got jammed up in a lawsuit that we didn't see coming. You could do all the research, all the title work, all the title insurance, all that shit. And some lady out of left field can take your nuts and put them in a vice. And we almost lost everything, man. It was brutal. But, that's one, it's the reverse of winning the lottery. That's the easiest way I equate it.
So we did hear the story on the last time you were on the podcast, so we won't dive into the details. How did you get through it mentally? How did you get through it as a family? And how did you decide to not hang it up? And how did you get the strength to be able to put your offer in on that next deal and not hang it up?
I think your faith has a lot to do with it. And I think when you look in the mirror in the morning, has a lot to do with it. And then as you look around the table in your family, has a lot to do with it. I really think it comes down to your faith, who you are, and then who you're surrounded with. And I know I've called both of you with crazy, this is the day I can't do it anymore, right? So your network as well. I do. I think kind of like what Brian said, you have to attract success, and you're not always going to, and that's okay. You found one way not to make money. That's all right. There are probably 99,000 other ways to make money. So I really do. I think there was a lot of introspection, a lot of faith, not only in myself, but others around me, and just grit, man. At the end of the day, you just got to stand there and take it sometimes and just keep taking it. And, one of the hardest things, in month, 14 of a hard money loan that's way past due is writing that check where you're like, holy shit, we got to sell something to just keep living. This is nuts. But it's brutal. It's funny. My kids, they're like, we play Fox Chapel today, Dad. We're going to murder them. I'm like, whoa. It's affected everybody in that household. There is no doubt about it. One person's action on that street of real estate impacted my family in a way that I'll probably have them, come to therapy at some point. But it's crazy. And you sit in it and you deal with it, and you look at your wife and she looks at you, and you think about, do we make the right decision? We made this decision together, which is great. But there are a lot of hard nights. Like you said earlier, we're all still married. That's one of those times where it's like, boy, this could fall apart real quick. So, but your faith, I think it comes down to faith.
I agree.
How about you, Mr. Saxon?
Yeah, I have to agree. Without my faith, I don't know if I'd been out of bed in the morning. One of the things with our business, again, was a family business, and we had I had myself and 3 siblings involved in the business, plus my parents when they were actively involved. So the chances of all 4 persons' responsibilities dragging you down and being a challenge at the crisis where you think it's over was kind of rare. So there would always be the other 3 to help cover for you or to help you through a situation. There were a couple of lawsuits we had over the years that we had against past employees for technology issues. And to see that break your father's heart, that somebody he trusted took technology and utilized it to advance himself in his own business was very hurtful. And then to have a judge in a trial hearing that comes down from the juror's room, we have a question. Is it have to be more than one trade secret that was taken? And the judge says, theft of trade secrets. It's plural, more than one. It's okay.
Oh
my God. So to see his disgust in that was difficult, but he knew he had his kids there to help bring him up. And we always think about those kind of environments where you need each other. And that's also what gets you through holidays together. You always realize that maybe not today, we don't need each other, but there's going to be a day, and to know that you have a team there in place. And much like Brian said, your spouse is that number one player on that team. So I'm very fortunate to have a wife that supports me all the time and encourages me and tells me not to worry about it. You know what you're doing, you'll be successful. So those are things that bring you through it.
And I would agree, with these guys. It's listening to your stories, and it's funny. We talk about lawsuits, and I remember back when I started my restoration business late of 2009, and it might have been maybe 2012, 2013, and I was at not an expo, but it was some small trade show. Another restoration owner asked me, he says, "How long have you been in business?" He said, wait, before you even answer that question, have you been sued yet? I said, no. He said, then you haven't been in business long enough. Which I thought I was taken back by that. And I thought it was pretty funny because I'm thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, yeah, it truly does, because, the more years you're in business, the more exposure you have, the bigger you get, the more exposure you have. And yes, there's always somebody out there wanting to take from you, right? And the easiest way to take from you is to sue you over sometimes the most frivolous thing, which I'm sure, everybody in the room has seen and experienced. But now when I'm faced with certain things like that, I just chalk it up as I've been in business long enough, right? I look at it as the positive, The outcome's the outcome. Where, you get whatever comes your way, you have the right people in place to absorb it's like having the bumper on the car, right? You're going to get hit, but you rely on that bumper to absorb the shock. Your accountant's your bumper, your lawyer's your bumper, your general manager, everybody that you have surrounded you, all you do is create a bunch of bumpers, right? Let them absorb it, and they're the experts on knowing how to solve it. But to answer your question, yeah, the support you have at home, because that's where we spend our most time, that's the most important. Having the right partner is 100% the most important key player in anybody willing to go out there and start a business and take risk. That risk that you take is, that's the risk factor involved is what keeps 99% of the people out there from starting their own business or switching jobs or making a career change. It's because they're so afraid to lose what they have. Going into debt, to me, going into debt is good debt. Now, I'm not talking about racking up credit cards and buying cars. Going into debt, what other biggest motivator is there than to climb back out, right? Yeah. And to make those payments. That's what forces you to get out of bed. That's what forces you to drive. That's what forces you to do that. And again, I'm big on faith. I believe I am a good Christian believer in faith. And so I keep myself grounded, and I know what's going to happen is all determined by the man upstairs. So I rely on and lean on him all the time to help guide me. But then in the end, I'm the one who's making those decisions here where we're at. But having the right partner, having, my faith, and then now, again, being blessed to have the children I have that are help driving this forward. What I've created. Sometimes I feel bad because I feel like I've didn't give them enough space to want to go figure out maybe something they want to do on their own. They kind of just knew they were just falling into what we have, and I do feel guilty sometimes, but then again, I keep reminding them how I wish I had that opportunity. I never thought I'd be in the restoration business. I never thought I'd own a plumbing business. I never thought I'd do any of this stuff. You just do what can, provide for your family And you take that and you just roll with it and you be the best you can at it and grow, like we were talking about growing, and grow it, to me, I don't know I don't know the limit. I don't know where I want to grow it to. I really don't. But not knowing where the finish line is keeps me running.
Yeah, and your kids are young enough, so they're in their 20s. Think about where you were in your 20s. By the time they're 40,
I have no idea.
They could do anything they want to do.
By the time my kids are my age, everything's already in line. Everything I talked about earlier, about having a financial advisor in your life and coming up with a game plan for your future. I already did that for my kids. Me harping on it, talking about it. They got so tired of me talking about it. I think they just ended up going and talking, because they just got me tired of hearing it from me.
Just going to do it so he'll stop asking me about it.
That's all it is. But then they got on the Zoom calls, with this person and had the conversations. And they, the first couple calls, both of them, they said, "Dad, can you sit in on it with me?" Sure, I'll sit in on it, but I'm not talking. I'll sit in on it, but you guys, you talk. Because they just wanted that support, I think, just having their dad there. Sure. Just because there's a lot of language that they don't understand yet. And even though they were shaking their head yes to a lot of things after the call, they were saying, okay, what did this mean? What did this mean? What did this mean? Educating them again. Now they understand it, and now they're like living it and breathing it. They love it. Like they're investing way more than I thought they would be investing. But because they see the roadmap, they already know where the finish line is. So with having that finish line in their face, now they know how to keep pace. It's not the burst of energy you use at the starting line. It's knowing how to keep pace so that you can reach that finish line. Burst of energy is great at first, but then you run out of steam. It's the consistency. It's having the systems and processes. It's having the knowledge of what's ahead of me, how to plan for it. Having knowledge is power, right? And if you have that and you can talk to the right people and obtain that knowledge, that pace is already set. You already know how fast you have to run. It's not a matter of how fast am I going to get there. It's, I know I'm going to get there because the pace has already been set. If that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, so we'll wrap this up. Last question. So we talked a lot about family. We talked about our kids. So of all things, we're getting our kids involved. We're building businesses. We're building kind of a legacy. So what do you want your kids to think of while we're creating this legacy? What legacy do we want to leave for our kids? What do you want them to think of when they're remembering when they're in our business, or do you want them to follow along in our business? Do you want them to run away from our businesses? I know that we've talked a lot about them coming into our businesses. Do you foresee them following all the way through? Do you want them to, and it being their lifelong career and building it to all new levels? Is it a temporary thing and they'll eventually find their own path? What do you foresee? Will they continue the legacy, or where do you see the future of your business and your families?
Well, I'll go first on that one. The legacy. I hope I leave to my children nothing with the business. My business now is much smaller than it was. I hope I leave with them those attributes that I carried, that were positive, were helpful in achieving anything we wanted to achieve. Do what's right. I hope they learn that lesson, that your father always did what's right, no matter what the circumstances. If you're placed in charge of something and there's a team that depends on you, you have to show leadership and take charge. If you make a mistake, you owe up to that mistake. All those things based around character. All of them have it, similar to what I and my wife have. My wife shows encouragement in every one of our children at all times, as well as I do. And those things make a difference. It's not a financial legacy. It's not a carrot to keep them going another generation. Hopefully, what we have been able to accumulate, we don't squander it. But if we do, our kids would be fine with that. I think that the legacy, I think that they should look back and say, hey, Dad's dead, but he was really good at all these lessons he taught us. That's the legacy.
I'm glad you touched on that dead part, because I think that's kind of like, we talk about the kids, but I think that's kind of more what Jerry, he didn't want to say it. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to talk about death. We'll add to that before Hugh answers. Like when they're standing in the casket, like
all these hours of driving, I think about things.
Yeah.
And I think, boy, I would love to give Sean Truby, that letter to read at my funeral. Okay, Greg gave me this letter. If Truby's reading this letter, I'm dead. You know what I mean? And then say whatever you wanted to say that you forgot to say. But I try to say those things while I'm alive to people that it makes a difference too.
I want to touch on that really quick. It's funny how many times my wife has heard me say to another man on the phone, hey man, I love you. And there's been a lot of shit that's going on in lives lately. And she's like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, yeah, I was talking to Brian or Jerry or my buddy, Like there's only a few, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't like I'm ending every phone call with I love you to every day. But it's
Sometimes you slip and tell a plumber things.
but you're not wrong. Like say it while you're here, because once you're gone, you're gone. And so the joke I tell my kids and my wife, they try and tell me to calm down on some things in life, and I'm getting older, and I'm going to stick by what I always tell them. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Both my grandmothers suffered dearly through Alzheimer's, and I watched them go through that. So I have no interest in that. I'm going to live every day, every minute, as I see fit, with character, morals, and values. I totally agree with what you said there. And I think the kids pick that up. Our children appear to be more mature than a lot of the children that they're around, which has been really good. I think legacy, when I think legacy, I think about the idea of what we did. And so I have one child who probably will not go into business for themselves initially. He wants to be an orthopedic surgeon. But I wouldn't, when I'm dead, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm looking down and holy shit, he opened an entire practice and
He's renting to all the other doctors.
Yeah, right. Because the idea of business ownership was presented, right? So they're both in school. They don't talk about what we talk about, right? Like school does not indoctrinate our children with the way that we think about the world, and that's okay.
Or how the world really works, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yes, correct. Sorry. And then my oldest son, he's still trying to find his way. He's an interesting cat. He's had a couple ideas, and it's not in the same realm of the business that we operate. And I'm like, cool, man, let's go investigate that. Let's go do that. Like at one point, he was 8 or 9. He's like, Dad, I think I want to make a baseball bat company. I'm like, I know a guy that knows a guy that owns a baseball bat manufacturer up north. Let's go talk to the guy. And I think it's really the idea. It's the idea that you could create your own freedom, your own business. This world was not created by anybody any smarter than the guy sitting in this room. I will fucking die on that principle.
I agree with you.
And it's just having the balls. I love that you said that earlier. Like, have the balls, take the risk. What's the worst that can happen? You have nothing now. You could be better ahead, or like, I don't know, you could be really worse behind. So, but legacy-wise, I think when I'm dead, first off, Claudine's probably going to be really pissed. She has to deal with a bunch of property, and she'll figure it out, man. Like, they'll be good. And I don't think it's the financial thing either. I think it's the idea of like, Dad used to take a piece of shit and turn it into something that has value. And, maybe we see something we can create value with. And it's just that value creation principle that having the balls to go do it. I think that's the biggest part of the legacy, honestly, is the modeling of the principles and what we do. Sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we get it wrong. You figure it out.
I think they also learn there's nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it and just do it. That's how Dad did it. You go out and, I don't know how to do this, but we'll figure it out. Work our way through it.
100%.
That's how I learned pretty much everything.
Sure. Just dive in.
Yeah. When I became chairman of the board of the Allegheny Valley Bank, I told my father, I said, he said, son, those chairmen put their pants on one leg at a time too.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Just surround yourself with good people, you'll be fine. He was right.
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
you know, to think about legacy and how I would want to be remembered, you know, by my friends, by my kids, by my wife, and whoever else. I don't. It's never money. It's never how much money you made. It's never how successful in business you were. I think I know it comes down to the character that you possess, the way you treated others, the way you loved your family and friends, like Huey. I call him Huey, but like Hugh, over the years has taught me things that I never knew. And one example of that was, you know, we've been friends for, who knows?
Too short of a time, to be honest.
Too short of a time, yeah. But it's got to be pushing 20 years, I would say. Somewhere around there. But Hugh would just call me out of the blue in the morning and leave me messages if I didn't answer. Hey, buddy, no reason to call me back. I just want you to know I'm thinking about you. I love you. I just want you to go out there and kill it today.
I get those messages too.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna start calling Joe more often.
Yeah.
Greg, weirdly.
But receiving those messages, I'm thinking, wow, the positivity that he's putting out there. These are the things it's not how successful you are in real estate and everything else in life that you are. Those little moments like that, when you pass on, if you go before me, those are the things I'm going to remember. So by him teaching me that, I now do it. I now reach out to people and I give those same messages in the morning. I'll go down my list of people I haven't talked to in a while and I'll call them. Hey, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I was thinking about you. People love when you tell them you were thinking about them. And I'm not just making it up. I was seriously thinking about them. But I'm not just thinking about them in my car and keeping it to myself. I'm letting them know I was thinking about them. You know? So it comes down to your character. It comes down to how you want to be remembered. And in all honesty though, how long are you going to be remembered for? You know, 10 years?
They say about an hour.
People leave the
Two
funeral.
generations.
2 generations,
Two
maybe?
generations. Tell me the names of your 4th generation back.
I don't know them.
My kids will remember me every time they get a dinner bill.
Yeah.
I look around, where's he at?
But think about like
Cell phone bills here.
Yeah. And think about like, you know, how we, you know, where we're all at today. Nothing was just handed to us. We all had to work for what we have, right? We all had to sacrifice. And we're still doing it.
That's why you're in this room, by the way. The people that get it handed to them, they don't have the vulnerability.
They wouldn't take the time to be here.
They don't have the balls to sit on this couch. Mm-hmm. It's just given to them. They don't get it.
Sure. And the sacrifices and, you know, leaving behind the tenacity and the work ethic. You know, I don't ever want my kids to not, okay, dad's dead. Now we're, you know, we don't have to work anymore, right? You know, do I have the things in play to protect my family for maybe an accidental death at this age? Yeah, it's there, but it's planning. But by no means is that ever going to be the way they live. And you set parameters. What I'm trying to say is it's not about money. It's what you leave behind. It's the life lessons. It's the wow. You know, he was such a great guy. You know, he cared for people. He loved his family. He loved his friends. You know, that's the legacy I want to leave behind. And the hard work. My kids, thank God they got to see, you know, they were young enough, but still understood, like, Dad's doing all this for us. You know, at first they didn't understand it because we'd be on vacation and I'd be anywhere on the resort where there was the best Wi-Fi signal so I could be on my laptop. But I would wake up really early because I would spend 3-4 hours a day working on vacation every day, but I would wake up real early so that I was ending my work by the time they were waking up because I didn't want them to see me always on the computer, which they did many times. But I don't want to be remembered as the guy who just worked on vacation. I want to be remembered the guy who they had fun with on vacation. You know, have I bought liabilities? Yes. I had motorhomes and campers and things like that were liabilities, and I don't recommend anybody doing that other than for the fact that
Forces you to take time with your family and create memories.
Thank you.
That's why we travel.
And it's the memories. It's the memories, and it's the fun times. It's the time that, I remember being in a motorhome, and it's one of my fondest memories with my son. I have no idea where we were, somewhere in the New England states, and we got tired of driving. It was supper time, and we pulled over in this vacant lot somewhere, and my wife, I think, put a pizza in the oven, and my son and I were outside catching baseball. Like I said, I can't even tell you what state that was, but I just remember.
Iowa.
Yeah, we'll just go with Iowa. There we go. Iowa, Field of Dreams. But we were just catching baseball in that empty lot, and those are the memories that I have. Those are the good times, and those are the memories I want them to have. It has nothing to do. Money is, it means something here while we're here on Earth.
Yeah.
But when we leave here, none of this matters. None of this matters. The only thing that matters is what you leave behind and the memories of the people that loved you. Those are the memories that you create with them. That's what you're leaving behind. Yeah. So when it comes to legacy, it's not legacy wealth in the fact that it's, financial wealth. It's the wealth of love that you had for your family. That's legacy for me.
I just saw something recently that said like memories, buy memories, not things.
Correct.
And then, I don't typically answer your questions when we have a guest, rather alone 3 guests, but I'm going to take a minute because like one of the things we did this for, and at the beginning we were big on, is like, this is a little bit of our legacy. Like your kids, when you go and you pass on, they'll be able to YouTube these episodes, and they're going to be there forever. They're in the cloud, right? So when we talk on here, our kids are going to have, at this point, 100 episodes to go back and be like, look at dad, jackass, whatever they may say. But my dad died when I was 19 years old. There was no financial wealth that he left me, but as 19, he still left a legacy, right? He went to work every day. He never half-assed anything. He was a fireman. He was the chief at one point, and he taught me, if you're going to do something, you do it all the way through, start to finish. Don't ever quit. Everybody can quit. Anybody can start anything. But for my kids, my legacy is they need to see that in me. But they also need to know that this world's not fair. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll lose some of your best friends, young, old, but they need to keep going. Just keep going. And that's what I want my legacy to be to anybody. Bad days, good days, just keep going. Short, sweet, to the point, but money will come if you keep going. Friends will come if you keep going. It's just nothing's given to you. Every day, one foot after another.
Well, it's teaching them to fish.
Yeah, just keep going.
Right? Teaching them to fish.
Just keep going. Today doesn't have to be the worst day of your life. It could be the best day. But if you stop in the morning, you don't know, And that would be to me, it's simple, short, sweet. Sean can read one letter. Just keep going. Don't even stop at the casket, guys. Just keep fucking going. Go out and do something in the afternoon that makes you happy. Just keep moving.
I agree with what everybody said. I really, as far as the business goes and wealth and finances and like that, as far as the legacy, I want my kids to see the work ethic, the dedication, all that. That's been something that I've wanted to instill in the kids. I've always wanted them to see that and see that you have to work. You don't have to be the best at something. You have to be your best at everything. Life isn't fair. You have to put your best effort in at everything that you do. And that's what's important. You have to give your best effort in at everything that you do. I also, something that I've always tried to instill in my kids is that you don't quit. Vinny tried one year, wanted to play soccer. Halfway through the soccer season said, I hate soccer. We don't quit. We don't quit. Your team, you started this, you will finish this. If you finish this season and you never want to kick a soccer ball the rest of your life, cool. You will not quit mid-season. We don't quit. That's the rule. He finished that season. Never kicked another soccer ball as long as he lived. Cool. We don't quit. I saw, I guess Matthew McConaughey just wrote a new book.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Matthew McConaughey. And this kind of is part of it. And it's something that it's the theme of his book. And I think it's a perfect theme to how I feel about my legacy. And it's the difference between being a nice guy and a good man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I try to be in myself. And it's not just being that yes man. You don't want to just tell people what they want to hear. You don't want to just be the guy that goes along. You want to do the right thing. That's not always going along with the crowd. That's not always doing the popular thing. It's doing the right thing. It's owning up to your mistakes. It's being honest. It's being a good man. It's standing by your family. It's putting in that best effort and doing everything you can and working your ass off every single day. And that's what my legacy, I hope, will be. And what
I'd like
I'll
to
be
add one
remembered
more
for.
point to that too. With, obviously we're all business owners. I never refer to anybody that works with us as employees. I call them teammates. None of this would happen for me without the people that are part of our team. And I know that right now, my teammates that work with us, that I care about every single one of them. And I truly do. Like I want them to succeed and want them to be successful. And the thing is, like, I don't want to have anybody ever leave us. Like when you come work for us,
It hurts.
work for us, when you come work for the company, because I work for the company too. So I'm I fall into that category. But when you come work for the companies that we have, I don't want anybody to ever leave. If they come to me and say, you know what, I found a better job somewhere else, or that means I'm doing something wrong, So in my mind, the legacy I'm leaving behind, it's going to affect me later, thinking about the employees that the company has that might have left me, and I'm thinking, okay, well, why did they ever leave? Did I fail them? Did I maybe not do the right things? Did I might not advise them accordingly? Like, I'm taking all the knowledge that I have gained over the years in what we've talked about for the last hour or so, and I try to instill that in them so that they can be the best that they can be, so they can provide the most for their families. So I know in my heart that when I pass on, if the legacy I leave behind is that everybody that was part of my team feels that way about me, then I know I left something great behind.
Well, I think, Greg, you could talk to that a little bit, since when your father passed away, I mean, he left such a legacy inside that company. I mean,
Yeah, he did. He left a huge legacy, and they all thought because he was this startup generation. I mean, we went to work when there was, I guess all of us were working there when there was 20 employees, siblings and everything, but he was a driver, and he brought people in from the community to help, and treated them as a father would treat a son.
yeah.
And encouraged them to grow. And there's one family friend that worked for my father in the early days, and my father encouraged him to go to college and go to engineering school. And he did. And I saw him a year ago in Upper Oakmont at his brother's house. And he said, I just want you to know that I attribute a lot of my success to your father's encouragement.
Wow.
So
It's the greatest
Pretty cool.
compliment ever.
yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, as an employer, I think that sometimes you can look at that and think oh, they're late, they're not doing this. But I had a boss at one point. I worked for Tony Felino at A. Felino Construction. And I was like, man, this guy's hard on me. He rides my ass. This is I can't believe this. But looking back on it now, I'm like, oh, I totally get it. Like he just saw something more in me than I saw in myself. And that's the best kind of boss you can have, you know. He put up with a lot in my 19 to 21 year range there.
So since Jerry, since you're not going to be known as a quitter, are you going to have us back when we're in our 80s for like episode number 700?
Yeah, but we're doing that one live.
Oh, wait, it might be 7,000.
We're doing that one live.
They're going live.
Our filters will all be busted.
You might have to do it in the ICU or something.
Hey, we'll do it in his son's practice.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, congratulations on your 100 years.
Yeah,
100 episodes, guys.
That's where I was headed. Like, so, you know, I did a little research today, a little fact finding on podcasts, right? So like you are among 7% of all podcasts.
Huh.
They never make it 100 episodes. Yeah, right.
How about that, bud?
Of the 7% that are out there that make it past 100, 90% of them never make it to 200.
We got a lot of work to do, bud.
How many of them make money?
Well,
Less than 0.001%.
we talked about it, like the money didn't matter, right?
Money don't matter.
So,
Well, that's where we were going to go after this.
So we're not getting checks
We're looking for
today, huh?
sponsors.
Yeah, I mean, we got all these business owners.
Look at the time. We've had the one-ton plunger there for about the last
When you
40
get the invoice
episodes.
for the one-ton plunger?
The one-ton plunger's been sitting there for the last 40 episodes. We're waiting for our check.
You know what? Why was this not right here? The whole time.
Because the check would be a lot bigger.
Yeah, that's right.
It's product placement, cuz.
So this has been amazing.
Yeah.
This is like the perfect way for our 100th episode. The amount of information and content, I think this has been great for our listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Truly enjoyed myself. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for
Yes,
having
please.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
so much.
And give yourself a round of applause too for
100 episodes.
100.
Yeah.
Thank you to our listeners for tuning in for 100 episodes, 100 straight weeks.
That's
awesome.
100 straight hours.
100 straight hours. and tune in next week.
Well, love you, bud.
Love you too.
And thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thank you for listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. Find and follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform. Like and subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. You can join us socially on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can email the show at info@betweentwobridgespodcast.com. Until next time, make it till you rake it.
Should I talk about how I donated, like when I got into this, how I got really into like donating money to charity? Should I get into that?
That's what you want your legacy to be.
what nights does charity work?